Welcome to Your Hero Academia by Fangirl48 on AO3. Chapter 27. One for All. Izuku felt like he was floating. It felt warm and safe, and most importantly, it felt familiar. Izuku. Turning his head towards a direction, Izuku thought he heard his name. The All-or-One user didn't realize he had begun walking. Izuku. Behind the green-haired boy, a figure followed quietly behind, only to be halted in their travels when Izuku walked through an invisible wall, wrapping them on the other side. Unable to speak or interact with Izuku, they could only watch on, hopefully, as the boy continued to walk away. Izuku. Shadowed forms rose around Izuku, staring at him with open curiosity and hostility. Occasionally, one of them would try to reach out and grab the all-or-nothing user, but a flaming hand would block them, trying their best to protect Izuku. Izuku! Izuku walked unaware of what was happening, until he smacked into a door. Stumbling back slightly, the all-or-nothing user blinked, rubbing his nose with one hand, the other curiously reaching out to the doorknob, twisting the metal, and pushing it open slowly. The creaking horror movie noise it made not helping his nervousness. "Hello?" The green-haired boy called out. "Is there someone there?" There was the barest of movements in the shadows, the sound of someone's breath hitching. And then, slowly the shadows seemed to part, as someone walked out from them. No, not someone. Tomura Shigaraki. Izuku grabbed the door for support, looking at his older brother like he had just seen a ghost. "Izuku." Tomura smiled, walking closer to his little brother. Some of the shadowy figures began to take on shapes, returning to the forms they had, looking like when they've been alive. As much as they still all held some revelations about Izuku Shigaraki, they were happy that first was, "You idiot!" Izuku yelled, snapping out of his stupor and punching his other brother in the face. Tomura hit the ground and looked up at his brother in shock. True, he couldn't feel pain in the void of One for All, but the disbelief still stung harder than the punch could ever. Some of the past One for All users looked ready to step in, but this time, the one with a mark on his face stopped them. Second, narrowed his eyes and wanted to see how things played out. If this brat would be their newest vessel, then second wanted to see how they act around first. Should Izuku Shigaraki be just as big of a jerk to Tomura as All for One had been, the second user was prepared to ensure he never received access to One for All's abilities or predecessors. Stupid, stupid, stupid idiot! No matter how much First or Eighth complained or pouted about it, Izuku dropped to the floor and began pounding on his brother's chest. Though, thankfully for Tomura, his hits weren't as strong as before. "You promised!" Izuku cried. "You promised me you and Hisashi wouldn't fight anymore!" Tomura sighed and looked guiltily, wrapping his arms around Izuku. "I know." When Tomura had been well enough to leave the hospital, he and Hisashi often quarreled. As much as the white-haired man loved his home and family, he wanted independence. But Hisashi used his poor health and appearance against Tomura. The eldest Shigaraki city that their hair made them targets for hate groups, and that it was safer to live with them at the Shigaraki Manor than anywhere else he could have found outside the high gated walls. Amid one of the pair's epic rolls, Izuku had found them and broken down sobbing. He had made them pinky promise not to fight anymore. The brothers had looked at each other and taken one of the extended pinky promises not to fight anymore, or at least not fight anywhere Izuku could hear them. Tomura sighed and let Izuku hug him as hard as he could now. "You look like shit. You haven't been looking after yourself." "I know. Tomura nodded, putting his head on Izuku's curly green hair. But Hisashi's also to blame for that, you know? Izuku snuggled into his brother. Gonna talk with him, too. One of the past users gave a short mimic of a boxing stance. Another, with 2 lines running down their face, rolled their eyes and cuffed the taller in the back of the head. The 2 brothers sat there for a while, unsure of what to say to each other. Well, that wasn't exactly true. There was something that Tomura wanted to ask. He was just too scared to ask it. Looking up at the eyes of his successor, he saw Third giving him a thumbs up. The man always being able to read Tomura's mind on some level. Pushing Izuku back to get a little distance, Tomura studied his little brother. The all-or-nothing user had aged a day in 200 years. Seeing it from Tomura's eyes was one thing. Seeing it for himself was another. Rachan? Hugging Izuku tightly again, Tomura felt his eyes start to water. I'm sorry, Izuku. The all-or-nothing user tried to pull back, but Tomura held tighter. I'm sorry. I tried to find you, I swear. Tomura began crying. Memories of himself, second, third, along with some trusted allies, working to find the missing Shigaraki. I looked for so long, but his all for one. Well, Tomura looked his youngest brother. All for One hunted him. The new carrier of One for All's name couldn't say more than a couple of days, sometimes hours, in a place before he had to run again. All for One was just as relentless in his pursuit of Tomura and his quirk in death than he would have when the man was alive. No, it's my fault. Izuku pulled back, shaking his head. The words. Inko. How would things have been different if Inko or Miracle would have been alive when Izuku disappeared? Perhaps Hisashi wouldn't have latched on as hard as he could to Tomura if he had just someone else to divert his attention onto. Tomura Shigaraki never hated anyone in his life. Not even All for One in his afterlife. But the cleaner. That woman may be the closest thing Tomura has ever felt to pure hatred for a person. Inko, Quirk, Izuku continued, trying to say the words. This was just like when he had been in the hospital recovering. How many times had he grabbed Hisashi's hand? How many times had he opened his mouth? No matter how much Izuku tried, he could never say the words. Inko's quirk, Tomura said, looking confused before realization struck him like a lightning bolt. Grabbing Izuku's shoulders, the eldest Shigaraki pushed his brother back to look at him. You took her quirk. Before she died, It wasn't an accusation. Tomura felt more like he was staring at a fact. Izuku opened his mouth, but again, no sound came out. Feeling ashamed, he nodded, revealing the secret he hadn't meant to keep for over 200 years. But how? Tomura said. The other, One for All users, whispered about what this could mean. You can't pass quirks along. I always thought that maybe with Hisashi, with his quirk, that it was possible. Izuku began, pulling at the hem of his shirt. I told Inko and she must have remembered. Tomura felt his head start to swim with the possibilities this brought. If All or Nothing kept some small vestiges of the quirks like One for All did, was there a chance that... No, Tomura shook his head. The first user wouldn't. Couldn't get his hopes up like that. If he was wrong, then whatever small sliver of Hisashi's sanity that he had gotten back over the century may as well truly snap. Seeing this new Tomura Shigaraki thought, Toshinori's eyes gave the man hope. Perhaps his brother wasn't as far gone as he had believed, even if the younger villain looked like he needed a bath and plenty of home-cooked meals. Of course, seeing someone walk around with his name was a little strange. The other user of One for All had watched the scene nervously, save for Nana and Banto, who had cheered Toshinori on as he fought the creature. All of that was something he could deal with another day. Right now, there was a more pressing issue to deal with. Rachan? You can't tell him. Tomura looked at Izuku seriously. Izuku tilted his head. What? All for Hisashi. We don't know for sure if you can pass quirks between you two, Tomura explained, scared of how Hisashi may lash out. You can't tell him about Inko's quirk. Not yet. But I promised, Izuku said, pushing away from his brother. I promised Inko I would. Izuku! Tomura yelled, surprising not only the youngest Shigaraki, but also the other users of One for All. Even second and third had never heard the man yell before. Blinking, Tomura looked at his brother and took a deep breath. Just, when you see him again, don't tell all Hisashi yet. See if you can pass quirks first. If it fails, I can't. All for One had destroyed a city and nearly killed Second when Tomura died. The memories his hero had shown Tomura of that day hurt. His brother was crying, tears endlessly falling from anger-filled eyes, and there was nothing Tomura could do to stop them. The man had the single most powerful quirk on the planet, even with the immense control he experienced over the namesake when it came to keeping his emotions in check. Hisashi Shigaraki had a poor record, and the world shook under his grief and anger. Tomura couldn't let that be directed solely at Izuku. Izuku didn't know why he couldn't tell Hisashi, but he nodded. Izuku would have to trust Tomura for now. Okay. All right. Tomura nodded. Now, moving on. This new Tomura Shigaraki has got me thinking. Maybe I should adopt a new name to avoid the confusion. New name? Izuku looked curious. It was a good idea. It might even stop him from having another episode should he meet the League of Villains again. Second rolled his eyes and reached for the door handle. It was probably a good idea to leave the two alone so they could talk in private. Though, knowing Tomura, they would devolve into nerd talk quickly enough. There were only so many times you could listen to someone complain about jetpacks before you learned to tune everything out. What do you think of Yoichi? The brunette stilled for a second and felt his face burn in embarrassment. Yoichi had been the name of a character from Second's favorite novel when he was alive. His favorite character, in fact. There was no way the middle Shigaraki didn't remember that. Gremlin. That's what Second called him. Leader. Third spoke, placing a hand on his commander's shoulders. Your ears are turning red. Aww. Fifth, Bancho cued, wagging his eyebrows. Look like someone's embarrassed. Shut up, Second snapped. Something white in the distance caught his eyes. Reddish-brown eyes narrowed before whatever it noticed him standing and disappearing. Second? Nana asked, waving her yellowed hand gloves before the brunette's face. You okay? What? Second snapped back. Yeah, I'm fine. Leave the two nerds alone for a while. We should all probably talk. Should we really hold a meeting without first? Sixth, no, End asked. He's busy with his long-lost baby brother, if you forget. Seconds used his thumb to gesture to the door behind him. A bomb could go off and these two probably won't notice. Banjo needed clarification. Where would we get a bomb? The fourth user, Hagari, regarded his own successor for a long-suffering look. With you? Nothing's impossible. Blue narrowed his eyes. Hermit? Brat? Weirdo? Man-child? Benjo opened his mouth, but Third stepped between the pair, summoning the area of the void that contained a large circle with 9 chairs, now sat. Sit. All of the One for All users members knew better than to argue with Third, and quickly picked a chair. The flaming vestiges of All Might pushed his chair closer to Nana's, while End and Hagari pulled theirs further away from a winding banjo. Obviously, we know what the subject is, Second spoke, leaning forward where he sat. Ace passed along all for one to a mini for one. We all knew this would happen. Hajime spoke with his arms crossed. Ever since that first dream, we all sensed it. You don't think Tomura may have influenced Toshinori's choice? The woman asked, looking at her student. Even if he didn't mean to. Bah! Banjo waved his hands. You brats too stubborn for that. Seventh and first too nice to pull something like that. Second and third wisely kept their mouths shut. Memories of Tomura manipulating them into letting him read comics or play a game of cards or for snacks were brought to the forth of their minds, and nodded. I agree. Toshinori is perhaps our strongest so far. What I know is, which of you decided to keep Izuku Shigaraki a secret from us? Hagakure looked at the group's oldest members. And why? Second opened his mouth, but third raised his hand, beating him to it. It was me, the man admitted. I omitted Izuku from our history. Why? Flame might, asked, his voice a combination of both forms. Third leaned back and took a deep breath. It all began when All for One and I were called to an island. Time to wake up and say, I am here. Time to wake up and say, I am here. Izuku growled as he felt the sun hitting his face. Grabbing his pillow, the all-or-nothing user hid his face under the cloth, trying to block out the morning sounds. Was all the warning Izuku got before a small body slammed into him. Lifting the pillow to glare at the dog, Izuku laughed as a pink tongue began licking his face. Pooch, enough! Izuku giggled as the dog jumped on him, licking his face more enthusiastically. Okay, I'm up. God! We're gonna get you a toothbrush or something. You have some serious morning breath. The dog barked again and ran at the door, jumping up to the handle. Hold on a second, Izuku said, grabbing the leash next to the door and attaching it to Pooch's collar. Okay, ready for morning walks. The canine barked enthusiastically. Izuku laughed and opened the door. 1A was returning to class today. Maybe if he was lucky, Izuku could talk to Toshinori before school began. Tell him about the dream he had last night. How he had talked to Yoshi last night. As soon as the door clicked closed, Izuku's phone screen lit up, showing 2 emails. One from Nezu simply titled, UA Sports Festival. The other from a surprising source that would lead to a darker reunion for the last carrier of One for All. All right, and that concludes Welcome to Your Hero Academia by Fangirl48. But it does not conclude the Forgotten Musketeers series. Nope, we are just getting started. There is, I believe, 5-6 seasons? Yeah, I believe 5-6 seasons, and we're barely in season 1. This Welcome to Your Hero Academia was season 1. Next up is season 2. I'm gonna go ahead and read the author's note, and mostly because it gives us a little bit of information on the upcoming season, season 2, which is Strained Innocence. And it also gives us information on dates on when it would come. So let me just... Author's note. Another part of this work done. I'd like to thank all you wonderful readers for continuing support and patience that made this possible. Next, we're hitting the UA Sports Festival. Not to name any spoilers, but we'll have more family drama. Not entirely Shigaraki drama either. You all know who I'm talking about. Staying and seeing how Izuku handles One for All's power being added to All or Nothing. To anyone out there thinking Izuku has this already OP quirk and now he's gonna be super OP with All for One. Yawn. Seen it before? No, Izuku will not become like that from the start. Or maybe not at all. I love him being OP, but not One Punch Man style. It may be a while before the next art starts getting posted. I want a chance to finish my other stories before we start it up, so please continue to enjoy the completed parts so far until next time we have Season 2, Strained Innocence. Let's hope everyone stays safe. So, yeah, Fangirl 48 is going to take a little small hiatus on this series to finish up their other works and stuff like that, which, valid. And as so far, we're going to let Fangirl 48 cook. The second the series starts getting posted again, though, I will ask if I could post the Podfic, the next one. And I think I'm going to do a different type of style for the next one. I think for those series that are going to be updated and stuff like that, I'm going to Podfic what I do have, you know? So yeah. Same with the other one, the Mockingbird and Lyrebird, the sequel to that one. I'm also going to start actually recording it, and I'm going to post it, and I'm going to put in the description of the playlist that it is, as of now, uncompleted and tread with warning, because it could be abandoned, for all we know, which I really hoped it doesn't, but it could be. That's the gamble when you are reading fanfics that are being updated, you know, on a regular basis. At any moment, they could get abandoned, you know? So, yeah, that's with that. I think this fanfic was really cool, really nice. I really enjoyed it, and I really hope we get a new one soon. But of course, let's let Fangirl 48 cook, because damn, are they really good with writing. I will say, I love their writing style, and it's amazing. I would want to be able to do more of this series. The series really encapsulated me. And I'm sure encapsulated you guys. I'm pretty sure you guys love this series. Put down in the comments what you like so much about this series, and I cannot wait till they start posting again. Those in my Discord server, if you notice that, you know, this series starts posting up again and I haven't noticed, I will be trying to check at least weekly. And I haven't noticed for whatever reason that, you know, it's been posting again. You could go ahead and tell me in the Discord server and I will immediately get on it. Like, you know, start asking. Of course, I'm going to ask permission for the next series because I got permission for the first and second ideation. That's not a word. Fics in this series. And I'm going to ask, obviously, for each individual fic, you know. Unless that person, you know, Fangirl 48 and one of them just tells me that I could do all of them as they come out, I'm not going to take one being like, yeah, you could do this fanfic as a, you know, one-size-fit-all consent for all the fanfics under the Musketeer series. So yeah, as for the series that's going to take place in this slot for tomorrow, it's going to be At Odd Ends by Corndog Patrol. And For the Wolfie. It has 2 authors, so that's nice. It is just a bit under 10,000 words, and it has 28 chapters, so it's a good lengthy fic. Depending on how long each chapter might be, I might cut it into parts, because at a certain degree, it gets harder and harder to record, like, 1-hour videos every day. So, keep that in mind. As for a short summary that I'm going to be... Oh, okay, I see. Okay, so it's written by For the Wolfie, but art is by Corndog Patrol. Alright, so while it has 2 authors, only one of them actually writes it, the other makes art for it. Which, by the way, I really love Corndog Patrol's art. Especially around the holiday time, because I see a lot of, like, Hanukkah art, especially the Hanukkah ugly sweaters. I love those so much. You guys should really check out corndog_patrol's Tumblr. It's really good, really cool. I'm probably gonna have their Tumblr also linked down in the description for At Odd Ends. And yeah, it's a Vampire Hisashi x Vampire Hunter Shota. It's a really cool fanfic that I very much enjoy and love. And I read this a couple months back. I don't know exactly when. I write down all the fanfics that I read, but I don't write down at what time I read them, which I probably should start doing, but it's already too late. I already have like 7 million words worth of fanfiction written down. I'm not gonna just, you know, out of nowhere start writing dates when, you know, probably over 100, 200 fanfictions don't have dates on them, so too bad, too sad. We'll just never know when I read it. I just know it was a couple months ago. I really enjoyed it. It's really cool. It's an enemies to lovers kind of thing. The enemies part is kind of one-sided, I will say that. I would classify it as idiots to lovers. It is a slow burn. It has smut, I will say that. It has smut. I'm eating my pride. It has smut. But it also has summaries of the smut, so depending on how smutty the smut part is, I might just not do the smut part and do the summary part. But that all depends on my mood that day. But yeah, I'm so happy, and I cannot wait for the next iteration of the Forgotten Musketeer to be uploaded and stuff. Those in the Discord, if you guys see that I haven't seen that it got updated or whatever, make sure to tell me in the Discord, which is linked in the description, by the way. And as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my socials and Discord server are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.